Hey everybody, I'm Eleni. I also work at Relay. Thank you all for coming out. All right, I'm going to talk about building a startup marketing team. Speaking of hard things, I think like building the team is one of the hardest things I've done in my career. And I'm assuming a lot of folks here are looking for gigs or hiring. So hopefully I can share some interesting stuff with you today. A little bit about me. So I started my career in media and culture. Didn't actually start in tech, but my first tech startup was Roadmonk, where I led marketing for about 5 years. And I now work at Relay. I joined the company early stage, and we've done some pretty cool things there with scale. Relay is an online banking and money management platform for US SMBs. If you're a US entrepreneur, you could basically use Relay instead of like a Wells Fargo or a Chase. We also offer some really cool cash management software components on top of the banking elements of Relay to give a really great cash flow visibility to small business owners. Yusuf, I can see your face staring me down right now. That's our founder, Yusuf. Okay, on the marketing team, one of the things I'm really proud of is just how aggressively we've grown the funnel. We've 3x last year alone. We are currently the fastest growing SMB neobank in the US. And really the way we did this was with an A+ team. And I think hiring is what I've really, one of the skills for me, I think personally, I've really focused on at Relay and really improved, quite honestly. And essentially, there's sort of like a bit of a framework that I think I've developed for how I look for the folks that we bring onto the team to make sure that everybody's like really gunning for it. And I just want to say our whole team is great too, but we're talking about marketing here right now. This is our marketing team. They're awesome. And as you guys all know very well now, there's a bunch of relayers here in the audience. Cool. So I think another part of why I wanted to talk about this was just because I've had like bad habits historically around hiring. I think one of the pieces that I've been guilty of in the past is essentially an overfocus on tactics or like quote unquote best practices without focusing on first principles, essentially being fuzzy around your numbers. And also something I've heard from the founders I've talked about this with is like, we just need a good generalist, which I'm not in disagreement with generally speaking, but I think the generalist is often something that's focused on like doing a lot of different tactics versus thinking in a way that's like really solid foundation. So for me, what I'm looking for is these three things. And like the foundation of all of it is the product thinking for me, which I think is somewhat overlooked from what I experience, at least in interviewing in marketing, is like how deeply can you know the product and connect that back to the marketing tactics. So for me, this is really the foundation of it all, but all three of these things need to go together. So there's product thinking, there's like data acumen, and then there's a storytelling muscle. And if you don't have like literally everyone on my team, we look for all three of these things, and that's really what I'm honing in on when I'm hiring. I'm going to quickly go through each of these. So for me, what is product thinking? Product thinking means you are always thinking about the customer. And if you're coming into an interview, you've already like done some research. You are caring about that customer at that moment. And you're also founding all of your ideas and tactics in the customer and the end user. There's tons of interviews I do where the customer is like, frankly, AWOL, and that just does not get you further in the process. And I don't think like leads to a successful team in the end. And there's just like a natural curiosity we're looking for like, are you obsessed with the customer or not? And I think rather than, we look for expertise, of course, but underpinning all of it needs to be this like product thinking where you're deeply connected to who the customer is of the business. So what I look for in the interview process, people saying stuff like your customer cares about cash flow in the Relay context. So I think we should build, say, like a cash flow calculator. Another thing we love is when people say, I talked to like a family member or a friend who's in your market. That really tips us off that this person's actually curious and is something that's like a really great leading indicator. Quick story from myself. This is screenshots from a demo that Yusuf, our founder, sent me when I was interviewing at Relay. The quality is terrible, but essentially I saw these people like freaking out about the product. And I tell this story often when people ask me why I joined Relay. This is like a big part of it, this video, because I just was so inspired by these people who were like losing their shit over the product. And that kind of enthusiasm is what I'm looking for in everyone on the team. Okay, data acumen, kind of basic concept, but essentially what I'm looking for here is know your numbers. This is another one that surprises me often. People coming into a marketing interview and are sort of like not really sure what their KPIs are, giving me a laundry list of metrics that they follow. I really want to hear like 1 to 2 KPIs that someone's following, and then they can single-mindedly pursue those and like obsessively pursue those. And if I'm hearing that kind of simplicity around it, that's also for me a really great leading indicator that someone's going to do awesome in seat. And I think there's also a fearlessness here. Hitting numbers is scary. Shooting for a big number is really scary, but that's kind of the mentality that we want on the team. So what I'm looking for here, simple storytelling around your numbers and obsessiveness around your numbers. You don't need to refresh your dashboard 9,000 times a day. I do personally, but ideally you are like living and breathing your numbers. And what I don't want to see is sort of like your 16 KPIs. That's probably not an indicator that you actually are living and breathing it. Okay, finally, storytelling. So I think this is just so much at the heart of marketing. And there's really like an internal and external piece here for me. So marketing is about telling the story to your market. I don't think you can do that unless you know your customer. But that's a big piece that we look for regardless of role, like growth roles too, looking for somebody who can really reflect the customer back to them. But there's also an internal piece because marketing requires like taking these big swings. So can you sell your ideas and like inspire the team to get behind you on your ideas? And again, I think there's like a creative fearlessness that needs to come into this together with like the target fearlessness to really push the numbers. So this is typically what I'm looking for all together on the team. So yeah, looking for people who like are inspired by a story, who kind of like know what's going to hit the customer mark. And I wanted to share a question that I ask pretty much in every interview I do. My team members who are here have heard me ask this question like many times. But this is one of my like litmus test questions where I ask folks, can you tell me an idea that you came up with that's kind of off the beaten track of marketing, off the rails? And I don't care if you failed, but I just want to test somebody's creative thinking, somebody's fearlessness again, their willingness to go outside of best practices because they're anchored in the customer. This is my kind of litmus test question that I have found really useful in interviews. So again, these are kind of my 3 things that work all together. A grounding in product thinking, really strong know your numbers instincts, and also a strong storytelling ability. Thanks, everyone.
Question, stay on stage. I have it's Alex here, right in front of you.
Hi.
I'm gonna ask you the first question.
Yeah.
You guys are all based up in Toronto, or the marketing
mostly.
team. And you're selling to the States, which is a very different banking market. So
it is.
how do you make sure your team understands the American mindset? Because it is different when it comes to banking.
Yeah, and that was like a really big learning curve for me. I think I didn't realize myself how different the US banking system is. There's like 5,000 banks in the US. It's much more of a shopping experience. Honestly, it's just research and consistency. I think, kind of having standards around how much you're talking to the customer. On the marketing team, we do a lot of trade show work, which is like a great opportunity to go talk to the customer live. But we also have a great product marketing function that's like researching constantly. And then our product team is researching constantly. At Relay, also our CX team, our customer support team, is like a huge part of the company. And they're sharing their feedback all the time with us and like really making sure we stay close. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sam.
Hi.
Thanks for your presentation. You can read more about me under your communications lead position.
Okay,
the resume
great.
will be in there.
Love it.
I'm wondering how you're able to glean creativity during the interview process. I think
Yeah.
marketers do a good job of showing through example, but just when you're talking to somebody one-on-one, how are you able to discern somebody who really has it?
I mean, like there is my own taste and instinct. I think that goes into it. I think that question that I asked, like I've asked that question probably 100 times since I started at Relay. And I've also kind of, been marketing for a long time. So at this point I know, and the team also knows, like we've thought up a lot of the ideas that there are to think up. If somebody surprises me, that really excites me. And if they're telling a story that's coherent and just like feels good, that excites me. But it is sort of an element of surprise.
He said he was going to apply.
Yeah.
You talked about the question that you asked to see creativity. Should we just ask him?
Do you
Ask the question.
Okay. Tell me an idea that you have come up with that's off the regular rails of marketing. You don't even have to have shipped the idea, but what were the results, positive or negative?
No problem. So I think that marketing is pretty boring nowadays. I think that you can set up your systems and kick back and relax. What I did at my current company is integrate marketing right into product. We focus on distribution while we're building apps to ensure that we have product fit and also that we're not just building for fun. We're building for a purpose.
I'd give him a round of applause. Wow. I mean, we put him on the spot, didn't we?
We did.
Unbelievable. Okay, do we have any other questions? Yes, I'll take one last question over here.
Hey, so my name is Sarim. Uh, I looked at you. I talked to you on LinkedIn like a few times
Yeah,
in the
we've
past.
met.
Like, yeah.
Hi.
Uh, I'm just
Yeah.
like, all right. So I know you're like most of your career you've focused on, like early stage B2B marketing.
Mhm.
I'm currently building SideNote.ai, and I'm like the solo founder. And at this point, I'm confused. Like, should I just give in to like the whole like, hey, invest dollars in sales, and get like people to call like cold call companies and grow that way, or should I still like as a marketer, I've only known marketing, so it's like, should I just keep on focusing on marketing? So from your point of view, if you were given like $100 to spend either as an early stage SaaS company, spend either on marketing like traditional performance marketing, or do you spend on like traditional sales and cold calling and lead and all of that, which one would you like? How would you split the $100?
I mean, $100 you should probably put into sales. I don't think you're going to go very far on growth marketing. But I think it really is going to be dependent on the product. If you're really early stage, you're trying to get your first customer, growth marketing is probably not the first place you should go. But we should chat about it afterwards. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to give like a one size fits all answer to that one, I think.
We're going to throw one more question your
Cool.
way.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Jonathan. You're going to hear me speak in a minute. So I love this presentation, by the way. I like super crisp,
cool.
very tight, like a good representation of like
Yeah.
growth marketing and marketing today. So you're, I like the idea of sort of trying to not hire generalists. The profile of who you hire, storyteller,
Mhm.
data-driven product usage sounds like a generalist. So
Right.
how do you? And I think this is a canonical problem in marketing
Mhm.
right now. Like, how do you make the decision, I guess, and like how do you get what you need and not hire generalists?
Yeah. And I'm actually not anti-generalist. I just think when people say generalist, they often mean they can do everything. Essentially, they'll do whatever. Like they'll both do the growth marketing and they'll do a bit of content and whatever. And like the skill set's not that deep. For this, I'm looking for this even in the specialized roles. So like if you're coming in a product growth role, let's say, or sorry, like a growth marketing role or a content role or an events manager role, which we're hiring right now, we're still looking for this. So it's more like the foundation of the thinking that I'm looking for than the skill set around that. That's like almost a whole separate question for me. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool.
Can I get a round of applause?